I love your Ted Lasso in the corner.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't know how many people don't understand the reference, though.
Can you imagine if it's like, I love Remember the Titans?
This is The Other 51. I'm Brian, and this week my guest is playwright Grace Aki. My guest this week is an artist, a playwright, a performer, a podcaster, a social media professional, a lot of things, and a lot of P's there too. And for our purposes, she is the writer and performer of the one-woman show To Free a Mockingbird, which is coming to New York City this summer. Grace Aki, welcome to The Other 51. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I never heard all of my jobs and things said in a sentence, and now I'm kind of stressed out by my own schedule.
I imagine, right? It's a lot. So, so before we get to all of the good stuff that you're doing professionally, and
talk about the bad stuff.
Well, no, let's talk about ice cream. Even better.
What a wonderful opening question. Oh my God.
Because we had talked when we were setting up this interview. Like my traditional pitch has always been that the conversation is like after deadline over a drink, two writers talking. But I realized not a lot of people, not everyone drinks. Some people may be in recovery. And so I've changed it to like over a drink or over an ice cream. And I knew you lit up at that. So I just, you know, I want to normalize meeting out for ice cream and dessert the way that drinks are normalized.
We could not be more simpatico. Like that is absolutely my MO, because I agree with you. And I also come from a family where that is prevalent. And like, I just watch drinking culture and I'm always like, why is it always let's meet for a drink? Why can't it be for coffee or tea or an ice cream? Actually, ice cream is perfect. So I love that you said that. Thank you. Let's roll with that.
So what is your favorite ice cream?
Oh my God. I'm like, how much time do we have on the pod? You know, I love let me start here. I really love trying ice creams, and I especially love, it sounds so bougie and silly, but like the artisanal, like, oh, we sourced this from your favorite oat cow or whatever. And there's like 100 things, right? And being, a Japanese American person, I grew up eating green tea ice cream after most meals or red bean. And I always associated those flavors as like, I loved that they were kind of a little harsh, not so sweet. I didn't grow up with like the normal, like, you know, this is strawberry, Neapolitan, like all those. It was always the weirdies. And in quarantine, I was so excited that my partner and I started trying this ice cream I found originally at Whole Foods. And then I realized was a local to Brooklyn standard called Nuna's ice cream. Okay. And she specifically has a black sesame ice cream that is life-changing. And I know that if you're not familiar with that flavor, that might sound absolutely disgusting, but let me tell you right now, I served it at my art show, like you referenced earlier. Like people were going back for like thirds. They were so excited. They're like, I've never tried anything like this. And I'm like, it's so smooth and delicate and rich. So I think that my favorite ice cream is Nuna's black sesame. I really think that's it. What about you?
I'll have to try that next time we're down in the city. So I kind of view ice cream like I view coffee. Like I know I should like the artisanal stuff, but I'll take anything. Like I'll take. Yeah. We have Perry's brand, which is we're in upstate New York, we're in Rochester, so it's kind of like your basic, you know, fun flavors, a basic ice cream stand. I'm always a fan of that. Big fan of soft serve, especially in the summer. You can't go wrong with a twist. And really anything with coffee, like a coffee flavored or a coffee chocolate or
like a Bailey's, like the Haagen-Dazs. Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yes. All right. So now that we've got the ice cream podcast started, which is what we're really here for.
Yeah, I would happily.
So I want to start off kind of looking back over your career and your kind of journey as an artist. So how did you get from wherever you started in this as a creative person to the point where you have a show debuting in New York in July?
You know what? I think like a lot of artists, I challenged myself because of a traumatic situation that I was going through in like my family. And I said, I always looked at, I've been studying comics and comedy, and I've used that in my theatrical settings my whole life. But I grew up watching people like George Carlin, Robin Williams, like would be storytellers that don't just go like, here's my joke and this is it. Like they're telling a life story. They're telling all these things. And I've admired it so much. And something happened and I put myself in a comedy class with Crom, who is, if you've never watched his documentary, highly recommend it. It's actually fully on YouTube. I will endorse this man till the day I die. He's also in the bedwetter right now. But I took his class, and he just helped me understand like how that feels and joke writing. And so I did like some sets around the city. That was horrifying. I started doing like stand up, and I was like, hold on, being a woman in comedy is hard. I never thought. Because I just saw so many successful people. Amy Poehler, like I grew up thinking like I could do that. And I could, but the landscape was really difficult. And so I realized like I didn't really enjoy doing like 5-minute sets. I had more to say. And I put myself in a class at the Barrow Group with Seth Barrish, who does all of my Berbiglia's work. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if I'm going to learn how to do this, I'm going to learn how to do it from the best. And so that's always just been the thing. And I started telling stories in that class, and he was like, I think there's a through line here. And everybody in there was at a different level. You know, some people had completed works, and some people were just starting out with like one story. And so it started to kind of unfold from there. And then I presented it as part of their like artist in residency series. And the first time I did a workshop of it, we sold it out within 2 days. And I mean, sold it out, LOL, it was free. But I got 40 people, 40 friends, you know, to show up. And afterwards, everyone had the nicest things to say. Of course, you're going to hear really nice things from your friends. I'm not a ding dong, you know, when it's be like, it was well received. I'm like, yeah, because they already like you, idiot. But you know, it was nice to hear. It was validating from people. Also, my friends are also industry people, and they were like, Grace, this is like really special. I had no idea you could do that. And I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like it's something. So I kept workshopping it, and I did it at a couple festivals, and I've done it in the city. And I think it's at a point, and I did it with SheATL. I developed it some more in Atlanta, which is kind of like a home base for me anyways. And then the director of the She NYC Festival, the parent festival, said, we see that you've moved back to New York. We'd like for you to present it at this festival. We think it's like there. And I was like, I agree. Like, so getting to do it at the Connolly Theater, which is this gorgeous, like off-Broadway house. It's got like, or maybe it's off, but it's 99 seats. And Circle Jerk is going to be there the month before me, which I'm excited to see that there. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. Is the first time I've ever got to develop. It's not just like I'm developing a piece, it's developing my own piece, and right. I'm in it, which is kind of crazy, but I decided to normalize it. Like you said, like if we just decide to say that that's normal and this is the trajectory, it doesn't scare us as much. Right. So if I were to look back and say like, hey, what if you did a whole hour, 10 minutes nonstop of you talking? And it's also everything that you've written. And also you're like exposing your family secrets. And also like, it's going to be hard to take for some people. I don't know that I'd done it. You know, like, I don't know that would have been the thing, but I'm proud of it. It's hard to say that sometimes, but I am proud of it. And I also hope that it encourages other young women to do the same thing. I'm like, why does it always Colin Quinn at the Cherry Lane? Like, why can't it be more than that? And I think that they have expanded. It's like no note to them. LOL, like that's my dream to do it there. But I think we have this idea that stand up long or hour storyteller things are limited to one type of person. And I think that Hannah Gadsby's Nanette really changed that. Yeah. And now I'm seeing more and more of the new wave of it, and I want to be a part of it. So yeah. Well,
it's interesting too that the how incremental so much of that is, you know, like you or you know any kind of writer's project or any kind of thing. Like you don't sit down to write the great American play or this play. You just kind of do it bit by bit or a little by little, and it tends to and then all of a sudden you look up and you've got a full work or you've got a full book or you've got a collection of stories. And it's not that it wasn't intentional, but it kind of makes it less daunting to have a finished product than rather to sit and to create it rather than to like, you know, you're sitting down to write this great, you know, Born to Run type album. No, you're just writing like a song or something, you know?
Yeah. And I know this is like a writing show. So you talk to a lot of writers. Like what's weird is that I never sat down to write anything. Really? I've never really written. Yeah. The way that I've developed any of the work that I've done is, and I also have a lot of anxiety in my hands. Like there's times when I actually just voice text things to my friends instead of, not voice to text, like as in I send a voice memo to without typing because my hands will kind of like freeze up if I'm anxious. But I just started to record myself. So like in class, like he would prompt me and be like, okay, so tell me a story from like whatever word it was. And then I would just like extemporaneously like kind of speak on it. And then I would just start recording myself. So I have hundreds of recordings, and I would just get my friends to record when I was doing a workshop of the show. And then I would go back and listen to it and be like, oh, that didn't hit, or I didn't like that. And then I recently outsourced to someone to annotate and create a script for my show after now working on it for 4 years, to be like, what do I say? Can you tell me how many pages it is? I've never sent a script off. So it's been a weird thing to finally see my words on paper because I've never written it. So
that's crazy. I was going to ask if there was a script, but now there finally is.
There's a script now.
So is that, so how much does the script, does it change as you do the show? Because if you're kind of the performing it like that, it seems like it would not be, the theme would be there and the general story is there, but it's not like a script, like a Broadway book where it's tight and everything is there.
But I have the same beats, and I have I go, oh, I like how that sentence sounds coming out of my mouth, and they seem to respond to how I say that. So I want to make sure that that's written down, because because I've now frozen it enough to where I kind of say, I generally stick to the same script every time now. But I've just never seen that relayed. And so my developmental director, Kate, has called out being like, hey, this time you said this sentence differently, and that did not get a laugh. You usually have it sung, like literally sometimes it sounds like very sing-songy. She was like, usually do it like this, try that again. And then we'll do that. And then she'll write it down. Thank God for her. Yeah. So we were living off of voice memos and index cards for about 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Yeah. So you mentioned the classes you took and the work you did with Rick and Seth. Can you give one lesson, or maybe hard to sum up one lesson, but what's one thing that you learned in both of their workshops or their classes that kind of stuck with you, unstuck you, kind of got you going, kind of pointed you in a right way?
Well, this is something that I've always felt strongly about, but it was nice that it was finally echoed through both of their teachings, which is less is more.
Okay.
And there's a specific part, I'll give an example, like of part of my show where I could very easily have a prop on stage to give you a visual image for the thing. But the reason that doesn't really work is because the way I'm telling the story, if I ruin your image of it by showing you what that thing looks like, I don't think that it's as strong, because then you're like, oh, well, that's what it looked like. I like that you have to picture something. And in both of their classes, they talked about how you can actually say a lot less and give the audience the ability, because audiences like to draw their own conclusions and audiences like to mirror their own lives. So if I try to make it more about the specificity of like my situation, or like, this is what this house looked like, people go, oh, I kind of pictured like a house that I grew up in. I've ruined their experience for it. And I want to pull them in. So I think that the less is more thing is important. And the other thing that I think is great with storytelling that I learned from Seth Barrish was the climax aspect of a show.
Okay.
Which is like, if you can't say boom curtain after your climax, it's not the climax. The climax could be the end of the show. Okay. And I was like, that's fascinating, because we had this conversation about Wizard of Oz specifically, and everybody weighed in on what they thought the climax of the show was, of the show, of the book, of the movie, of the, material in general. And everybody in the class said it's when the witch dies. That's the climax of the show. That's the big moment. Could you end the show? Could you end the book at her dying? Why? Because that's not the big cathartic.
Dorothy's got to go home.
Dorothy's got to go home. But I think that the message of the story, which can be also the climax, is the fact that she was the wizard all along. And it's her heels clicking is the climax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you start to take apart your own stories and ask yourself those questions, boom curtain has been, because I even use it for beats. I use it for scenes. I go, boom curtain. Can that scene end because of this climax? No, it can't. Okay, so then what do I say before and after? Okay. That's been just invaluable to me.
I love the that's fantastic. I love the lack of specificity. The less is more.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting because I'm a journalism professor and journalist kind of by trade, and that's very opposite of the way we teach it. Like we teach specificity, like the details. Like I have a blue water bottle with a Revolver Records sticker on this. Get the color of the water bottle, get the stickers, get what they say to paint that specific picture. But I can understand in a play or a dramatic work, you want the connection, the audience's connection with it can't be that specific, because it's going to not then connect with them.
But to your point, though, you describing that to me, I have a visual image in my head, which is great. If you were to show it to me, I might be disappointed.
Gotcha.
So that's where that could come through.
There.
Oh, and now
I'll
I'm
disappoint
seeing
you.
it. See, I'm pissed. No, that was great. But I think it is a weird thing, right? And like
Yeah.
journalism and creating that rich world, but also at the same time keeping people entertained. It can be
Right.
very different.
Right. So we've talked a lot about your play. Can you give a little bit of synopsis is the wrong word, but what is it? Can you tell us what the story is? What is this story that you're telling?
Tell you, I guess, how it even came to be. I felt like I had so many family stories that I had normalized, that when you say something out loud and then people are like, oh, that's challenging, and then you're like, what? Are you sure? So I have all these stories inside me, and it's mainly about how my family came here and how our generational stories and trauma track through to us, and how sometimes even when you're like, well, I'm different, I'm like, I'm the new generation of it, like there are a lot of parallels that we might not realize or want to see all the time, but that connect us all in many ways. So my story is very specific to my family, but I also think there's so many stories that are universal. Like, my mother traveling from Japan with her family, landing in Georgia, my parents' love story, my love story, my grandparents' love story, and how all those things, in my opinion, didn't match. And then when you hear it, they might all connect. And then how we tell our stories and how we choose to portray people that have passed on, because there's only so much that we can know after they're gone. What do we do with that? The story is kind of about storytelling. It's set up also like as a, I want people to feel comfortable. So I'm comfortable holding a mic like it's a stand-up show. So when it's structured in that way, and then takes a turn, I guess I would say. But yeah, that's how I would gather all of it.
How was emotionally, what was it like to write to speak voice memos? Right, we'll use loosely, but to kind of go through these stories and to kind of figure out how they become bits, for lack of a better word. What was that like?
I kind of picked out what I felt were the most like oddball of stories, and then I just kept testing them to see if any of them matched up.
Okay.
Like, and a lot of times I would go, well, I don't know why I have to tell this story, but it matters to me. And so then I would do it, and then I would realize that like, oh, that's because I have this other story that I do want to tell. And then it would all kind of like feed into itself. So I started off saying, for lack of, not writing, but saying 12-minute bits. And so I would perform those different places, and I would do like 10 minutes of this story. I was like, I've been like randomly hired to like perform at like, I don't know, like Miss Congeniality type contests in New York. Like, can you just do like 10 minutes of like a funny story? And so I told my 10-minute story of like when I was a beauty queen for a day, just out of the fact that my mom forced me to enter a beauty contest because I hadn't worn this dress that I promised her to wear 3 times. And then I won because I was promised a funnel cake at the end, like just like trying all these, but like it got me used to like getting to the point of a 10-minute story. So when I put them all together and I'm telling like 6, that's how I was able to develop it. And then we changed the order of so many of them to kind of fit the arc of a story. Because isolated, they could stand alone. You'd just be like, that was a weird thing I learned about that girl. And then you'd move on.
Right.
But that's how we developed it.
How important is that kind of through line to the story? Like to that, so it's not just like the vignettes or the stories. And what was the process like of developing and figuring out what the through line is through all of the individual stories?
I didn't want to figure that out because I felt like that was a lot of pressure. And as like not a writer, in my opinion, now I'm like, oh crap, I have to say I'm a writer because I've written something. But because I always felt like, one, no offense, I thought it was pretentious for me.
Totally.
Like I thought I didn't go to school for writing. I can't consider myself a writer because I've never had anything published. And it's like, people run around here saying they're a writer all the time and they're not, or
Right.
they are. I don't want to take that away from them, but I don't even remember what we were just
through line. The through line.
Through line.
Yeah.
See, I'm like, where's the through line? I don't think that I said anytime I see anything, as long as I find a point at the end, the climax, or it buttons together, I don't care if it's jaggedy along the way. It wasn't important to me to go, oh, well, then this happens. So then this has to happen here. And then, oh, this is the denouement. Like I didn't care about any of it. I was like, these stories matter to me. And then my director was like, hey, you need to tell your story, like about you. And I was like, no, I just want this to be about my family. And they were like, nobody's going to care about you doing this show if you don't talk about you. And I was like, well, I'm not comfortable with that because I haven't been in therapy in a year. So I think that it wasn't important to me to have a through line, actually, as long as it made sense in the end, because I've always known the ending. I had always known how I wanted to release that into the world and how I wanted to leave it, because I don't think I had anything past that. That was my boom curtain. Right. So as long as it matched up at the end, great. I mean, literally how Margaret Mitchell wrote Gone with the Wind, she started with the ending. She always knew how the story was going to wrap up, and then she grew the story off of that. So
endings are so important, and they really are. And it's funny because, like, again, journalism, we always think about the lead, the important how you start as being the most important thing. But again, no, that where you get to is as important. So I'm wondering too. So as we said, you have 8,000 jobs that you do and different things that you do in the creative space. So when it's just a piece like this that you're working on, that's yours, that's not commission, that's not a professional obligation or a job or anything like that. I'm curious, like, how do you keep going to get to a point to finish that, you know, when you're not like facing a deadline or you don't have like an opening night where it's just your stuff on your own? How did you kind of find the motivation to keep going on that?
Why are you asking me the questions that I ask myself? Like, how are you doing the thing that I'm like, oh, she's got to figure that out. It's really hard, I've found, to work on my own work because, and what I've tried to trick myself into thinking is that I'm a client of myself. So that's how I've been able to survive the past like 2 years is, hey, Grace needs you to take care of this thing, and she needs you to contact this person. If you can get that done by the end of the day, that'd be great. And so I legitimately, like, I have it on my calendar as client and then Grace, because if I trick myself, because I love caring for other people's projects, and if I trick myself into thinking that I'm part of that, I give myself value. And I don't know that that's the same for a lot of creatives, but I'm assuming it is, because we go, oh, well, that's mine, unless you're like a super narcissist. If so, like, go fuck yourself. But I think we all have a hard time advocating for our own work. So if you pretend that it isn't your work, you might care about it.
Awesome. That's actually really awesome advice. I think I'm gonna have to steal that. So you, I mean, along with the play, you just had an art show in Brooklyn, 3 acts before 30. That we couldn't get to. We were in the city in April, so we didn't get down to it in May. Otherwise, would have loved to see it. You've got an awesome podcast that is in its second season. Do you find is there kind of a common theme to all of the creative work that you do? Is there get back to that thing? Is there a through line that connects the creative work that you do?
I think that a lot of it, I've always been like a culture junkie. Like, I think it was a coping mechanism as a child, because there was a lot of like weekend neglect of, like, I would sit there and I would get like the movie gallery for movies in a candy deal. And I would watch everything. I mean, like, when, by the time I was like 12, I had seen every Kurosawa movie, and I was like moving on to like, it was just, that's always been a thing that I've cared about. So pop culture has always been a part of it. So if you saw like in the art show pics that I've posted on like my art account, a lot of it is like movie stills that I really love. I love connecting to, because that is honestly the thing that connects me to a lot of people is I try to be able to have a conversation with everyone, because that's nice. but that's what kind of keeps us all together, is like film, TV, theater, music. All those things are like the only way we can all get along. So it's been important to me forever, because I've even been in like retail sales, like all of that. If I can connect with one person, great. So pop culture has always been a part of that. So that kind of is in the show. And then the other one is like, being honest about how stories and family affect us in our brains and lives, because we try to pretend all the time that we aren't like our parents, and we try to pretend that we're like the new generation of whatever. And at the end of the day, like, we come from something, even if we don't like that something, we have to honor that it might still be a part of us as a culture. And what does that mean? So that's the kind of like the new thing that I've been trying to explore in the past like 5 years, but it's always been pop culture has been really important to me.
What does the word storyteller mean to you?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I think that it just means relaying and honoring what you've heard before and making sure that you're part of that narrative. Yeah, I think that's how I would wrap it up nicely. Is just like when you're telling a story or being a storyteller in general, like where does that story come from? Are you honoring how you heard it? And then how are you putting yourself in that? Because that's how we tell stories. You know, it's impossible. Whenever people are like, oh, well, I had to take myself out of it. And I'm like, well, then why?
Right.
You know, the Hamilton model is a perfect example. Making sure that Eliza at the very end is like that's who's told your story and what is her story, what's her legacy, is important. If you'd left her out of that, you'd be like, how did Ron Chernow or whatever write this book? You know, it's because her records. So honoring women and honoring storytellers is part of that journey.
Yeah. So before I get to the question I always end with, you work in the Broadway world. You know, you work with Broadway records. So when people come to New York, they're going to see your show in July. So what's one Broadway show or even off Broadway show? What are you stoked that's either out now that you have to see or is coming soon that you want to see? You can list a bunch. You don't have to pick one, but what are you stoked about in the theater world?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. Two things are happening. My Neighbor Totoro is coming to Royal Shakespeare Company in London in the fall. If you're in London, call me so you can tell me how good it was. The second thing is a play that actually just ended. So I apologize that you cannot go see it, which is not really answering your question, but I highly encourage people to read it. It's called Which Way to the Stage by Anna Nogueira. It was on the Kilroy's list in 2019. It's a fantastic piece of work. And I think that it's just a play that should be read and studied right now. It just ended at MCC. So I apologize. This is not a very good commercial, but that's a new piece of art that I think you should go see. And then A Strange Loop is changing the game for musical theater. And I'm so excited for its future. So yeah.
And when we were down in the city, my wife had one ticket. She saw it in previews before opening night. And I've never been more jealous of her than that night. I mean,
Wow.
my daughter and I won the 6th lottery that night. So we had a fun night. So that was great and all. But
oh, you guys lucked out. I can't even compete with what you just said. That's gorgeous. So I'm glad I said a play that you can't even see right now because that's the vibe. So
but A Strange Loop is, I mean, we're recording this the Wednesday before the Tonys and it's gonna win everything. And it's so good. Okay. So I ask every guest I have on this. So I'll ask you, what's the best thing you've read lately?
Oh, I'm really not a good reader. Oh no. I recently purchased for my mother and I Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. And that would be the one that I'm getting through right now that I would recommend. She's the lead singer of Japanese Breakfast, but she is a Korean American woman who talks about like the loss of her mother and like the effect on her art. So like the fact that she is a musician, but also like wrote this memoir. There's just a lot of like, and I really grew up going to H Mart, which is like my favorite grocery store. You can also find Nuna's ice cream there. Not to plug her, I don't work for her, but Hannah Nuna is I would be her best friend. So Crying in H Mart would be my recommendation for that.
Very, very cool. So tell people about your play when it's going to be in New York, and there's a streaming option too, right? Did I see that, or am I making that up?
From what I understand, there's a streaming option because they're really big on accessibility, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
And you can buy tickets for it now. They're on sale on the SheNYC website, but I also have it linked in my bios on all my social media accounts. Because if you follow me at It's Grace Aki, you can find them there. But it's July 27th at 7 p.m. Following that show, because again, it's only like an hour and 10-minute show. Following that show, Broadway Radio will host a talkback with me, which sounds, again, I feel so gross, like saying like it's talkback with the playwright and the performer. It's me. And then the 29th at 8:30 p.m. So 2 opportunities to see it for now. And I would love to see anybody. And it just, even if you have no ties to me whatsoever, I'm always looking to get feedback that isn't from my friends that laugh at all my jokes, because like God bless them, but I need to know if something sucks. And I'm just so excited and thankful for this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. I'll link to all the links and all of that in the show notes. So, Grace, this has been awesome. We'll meet for ice cream next time I'm in the city. But thanks for joining me.
That would make me so happy. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Other 51. Show notes for this and all of our episodes can be found at sportsmediaguide.com by clicking on the Other 51 tab. If you like the show, please consider giving it a rating and a review, either at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does help people find the show. Our theme music is by Ellie Moritz.